My name is H.A. Goodman, and I'm an author, columnist, and journalist. Hit subscribe right now. We're on our way to 120,000 subs. My live streams are epic. I just went through the 37. Oh, I'll get that to that in a second. The best case scenario is 22 wins. Net gain for Democrats. I'll get to that later. But, big news. The New York Times and the Washington Post just gave President Trump every reason he needs to fire Rod Rosenstein. Rod Rosenstein, according to the New York Times, wanted to secretly tape Trump. You have an active coup, essentially, an active coup where people like Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, what is the 25th Amendment, the difficult process to remove a president? But here, Rosenstein made these suggestions in the spring of 2017 when Trump's firing of James Comey as FBI director plunged the White House into turmoil. It wasn't turmoil, it was all media-driven. All of this is media-driven. James Comey doesn't have a right to be FBI director after he covered for Hillary Clinton's crimes. But we'll get to that. We always get to that. But Rod Rosenstein suggested secretly recording President Trump and discussed the 25th Amendment. This is also corroborated by Andrew McCabe's notes. So he's done. In terms of he wants to get fired, or if Trump wanted to fire him, he could have. This is why I think. So Rod Rosenstein suggested secretly recording Trump and discuss the 25th Amendment. This is the New York Times today. New York Times. Okay. I think that there has to be something going on. There's either somebody who's a friend of Trump within the New York Times, or the New York Times and the Washington Post simply hate Trump so much that when you hate somebody so much like they do with Trump, you inevitably play into their hands. You don't think with your brain, you think with base emotions that make you do things you shouldn't do, that make you do things that hurt yourself. There's that old line, I think it was Voltaire, who said, when you diss me, you diss yourself. A lot of people have tried actually to go ahead and hurt me, for example. It ended up backfiring on them. It's happened throughout my life, actually. And Trump, it's like exponentially greater with Trump and his life. People try to hurt him. The opposite happens. They hurt themselves. Rod Rosenstein suggested secretly taping the guy he works for. And this was 2 weeks into, according to the New York Times, 2 weeks into his job. That it's not, you're not insubordinate now. You're actively trying to engage in some kind of media-driven or politically driven, motivated coup. You're trying to depose an elected president based on what you think, what your perception of chaos is. President Trump happens to have a work environment that isn't President Obama's, but he didn't destroy Libya like Obama. In fact, he's presiding now over peace between North and South Korea. Oh, but what about this region? Yeah, Obama got us in there. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. So, this is just unbelievable. Like, it boggles the mind. It's just insane how you have today. Not only do you have an anonymous letter, or writer in the New York Times allegedly trying to say that he or she is within Trump's administration, removing things from Trump's desks to try to resist, as if Democrats are the height of sanity. The Democratic Party is the most insane, corrupt, evil political organization. They overtly cheated Bernie Sanders. The DNC and Podesta emails show 500 conflicts of interest with the Clinton Foundation. They show overt cheating of Bernie Sanders, that they used his religion against him. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign. 3 or 4 other officials were forced to resign in disgrace. They lost the election after they had the media saying she was going to win. It was a certainty. I'm telling you, Republicans will keep control of the House and keep control of the Senate. But you have an overt attempt at sabotaging a president that 63 million people voted for. The midterms are going to be a referendum on sanity. Do you want Democrats who are out of their minds? They've checked out. I'm telling you, they've checked out. So it's even beyond anything of my comprehension. I cannot comprehend how absolutely loony they've become. If you're in another country and you're looking at what's happening here, I can tell you right now it's 100% the Democrats' fault. 100%. Trump can tweet what he wants. He can say what he wants. The outrage meter is always set to 11, 12, like Spinal Tap. Everything's fabricated outrage. Everything. Well, if it's a Republican who does something wrong, but you know what? Oh, can't talk about, Keith Ellison in Minnesota, DNC co-chair. Oh my God. Always a double standard, always hypocrisy. They don't care about movements. They don't care about Me Too. They don't care about the environment. When has the Democratic Party made the environment an issue? Yeah, but the Republicans are worse. Doesn't matter. They talk about only Russia collusion and trying to impeach Trump. On both, they have no ground to stand on. And Papadopoulos is only serving, 2 weeks, and he shouldn't even serve a day in jail. They have nothing. They never had anything. We learned the other day Lisa Page stated that there was no evidence before the Mueller probe. Now we have this. We already learned from Louis Gohmert and the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, Charles McAuliffe, that Hillary Clinton, her server was hacked by China. We have enough. Trump is actually a genius. He's waiting and waiting and waiting. I would have fired Mueller a long time ago, but he's waiting. He fires Rosenstein. He can then fire Mueller. Rosenstein's in charge of the Mueller probe because Jeff Sessions recuses himself about 10 times a day. I hope you like my new background. Love George Orwell, Winston Churchill, John Belushi is one of the great comedians of all time. George Orwell is my favorite author of all time. And obviously Churchill is one of the great leaders of all time. What can I say? Rod Rosenstein, the number 2 of the DOJ, wanted to secretly tape the guy he works for, the President of the United States of America. Why didn't they tape Obama? Why didn't they tape Bush? Why didn't they tape George W. Bush's mouth shut? So when I say that Republicans will win the midterms, I'm saying that America and the voters of this country and the people who believe in actual democracy will not vote in Nancy Pelosi to plunge the country into essentially what could be turmoil. Because you're not going to have the Washington Post and New York Times check Pelosi. The Washington Post and New York Times, all of them are essentially now working, almost literally working for the Democratic Party. And accidental moments of reporting like today, Democrats are going to spin it like, you see, even people in his own administration want him out. No, actually what's taken place is that you've inadvertently or knowingly, very likely inadvertently given Trump every single opportunity to fire Mueller. He already had every reason to fire Mueller with the Strzok texts. And then if they made an issue, he could have declassified anything he wanted to. Today, by the way, the UK and Australia didn't want him to declassify things. Why? Because they were in on everything. Alexander Dumbo Downer, the guy I always called Dumbo Downer, was in on everything. They started an investigation based on gossip and hearsay from 2 men, one of whom, Papadopoulos, was framed, and then the Steele dossier that BuzzFeed is now suing the DNC. So share this segment everywhere. Hit subscribe right now. Not many channels are talking about this. Not many channels are talking about the midterms. Hit subscribe. Definitely check out my live streams. And thank you so very, very much.